have been the fault of others, and then you're going to have to work through how you feel about all that as a part of the truth of facing that.
And I've lost a lot of people in my life from that sharing of truth.
Well, have you shared?
Have you lost?
Why
did
have
you have
you?
them?
Yeah, did you have them in the first place?
Yeah, well, that's
Secondly,
that's
did you share truth? See, I don't share truth with you unless you ask for it. So if I'm forcing my truth on another person, that's not me sharing truth. That's me expecting that other people listen to what I think is true. And that's an unloving act. So you've got to question, well, did I lose those people because of my arrogance, that they would listen to my truth and they should? Or did they ask and so I told them and then I lost them? Like, that's something you're going to have to weigh up, you know. There are many times people will ask and then you tell them and then they didn't expect you to tell them the thing you told them. And of course that is usually going to have an effect on them that they don't want to see you again. But there's also many times where you try to force your feelings and opinions and your hurt on others in order to get others to share in your hurt so that you don't have to feel it as much as you do. And those things are very unloving, and that certainly is going to cause people to step away from you as well. So the key is to analyse which one of those things has actually happened.
Both.
Yeah, and this is very common. You know, the average person who hears divine truth initially feels like the world needs to know it, but instead of thinking that the world has free will and that they must first ask, right, then there's a temptation on your part to force it upon them. And if that happens, then of course it's not going to go well, because you're actually trying to overcome the law governing free will in order to share truth with people. And that's not going to work, right? So that naturally is going to have a bad effect, right? And after a while you realise, all these mistakes you made trying to share truth with somebody that didn't want to hear it in the first place were all your sins continuing to be committed because you didn't want to feel something. And one of those things you might not wanting to feel is lonely, you know, just a simple thing like that. So you wanted to feel like, I want a companion to come along with me for the ride that I'm on. Yeah. But that itself is an unloving act, you know. So you got to weigh up what is the real reason why you've lost friends. Has it been because of you acting in harmony with truth, or has it been because you continued in the addictions that you didn't know you had at the time? Yeah.
And family, through talking about things that happened to me, are no longer in my life.
Well, I understand that. There's no need for you to talk to them about what happened to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also, why would you want them in your life anyway? If they are not prepared to accept the truth of what's happened to you, that you know is true, then how much of a good friend are they?
Yeah.
I'm not a friend. So a lot of you are not prepared to give up your attachment to family. And the reason why you're not is because you sort of want the family to rescue you from your feelings. You understand?
Or validate them.
Or validate them, or agree with them, or share in
That's
them.
never happened, so it's not going to happen.
Well, I know it's never happened, but you want it to.
Does it mean I don't still long? I'm longing from it from the wrong place sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, you want it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be upset with it. Like, my family haven't agreed with a single thing that I've shared with them ever, that they've asked me to share, by the way. I've never shared something that they haven't asked. They've not agreed with a single thing. They've, in fact, in many cases, tried to get me committed and all sorts of things. I don't have any resentment towards them at all, and I don't feel sad about it. You still have resentment and you feel sad about it. So that means you haven't dealt with it. So that means, what are your expectations? So you obviously still have expectations associated with family. Make sense? And the key is to let yourself work through them. Yeah. You get to a point where it's sort of amusing.
I've dipped my
and also,
toes
you'd
in
be
those
thankful.
waters.
You'd be thankful that nobody agreed with you, because then, if somebody had of, like, I look back at it and I go, if people had given me what I wanted at the time, I would probably not have dealt with half the things I've dealt with. Yeah.
Totally. And also you come to be able to assess your family for where they're at, their character, and feel like, well, would it be good to hang out with those people with their current desires or their character, and would I choose that if they weren't my family? And once you can start to ask those questions sincerely, you realise you have a whole heap of addictions that are just based on your unfelt feelings from childhood that are creating these, ongoing attachments. Yeah. Yep. Families, we're taught that they're the only ones that love us and they're the only people we're close to, and that, that our children, our parents, our siblings, our spouse is really, society says, well, they're the only people you can trust, who are only people who are going to be with you in the long term, only people that really love you or really know you. And I don't know, in my experience, that was just completely wrong on every count. Yeah. And when you're measuring what is in those relationships as love, it keeps you away from God, because it's clearly, there's injuries in it. But also, it actually stops you developing your love of others as well, for a lot of reasons, because you hooked into these people, you preferring them over other people, but also you're not seeing the opportunities around you to connect with people who, for themselves, not for what they represent to you, but for who God created.
Who they are.
Yeah, who they are.
Mormons have that to the nth degree, don't they? You're
They
stuck with your family for eternity.
You are. The Mormons. Yeah. They have quite a developed idea of the afterlife, and the husband becomes a ruler of his own planet almost, I think, and then all the families with them forever, and it's just a concept of the spirit world, I guess, but like most religions on earth, very patriarchal.
As the one who have multiple wives?
Yeah. Well, it is true for a lot of people. They go
the beliefs.
hang out with. Well, even people who aren't Mormons often spend a lot of time in the spirit world with their families or their spouses, and because obviously it's the beliefs that govern what happens when we pass. It doesn't just stop. Yeah. The value you place on people is something that's in your soul, and if you pass with those same values, then, or even if your family passes and you're still here on earth, you're going to be spending a lot more time with them, because they'll be attracted to your beliefs, your feelings about them being more important, or you being needy for their acceptance, approval, just even your unfelt grief with them will draw them to you.
Like a safety blanket, that they've got, that stops them having to progress or anything. They've just got this little cocoon.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very safe or blankety, but
Yeah, you know what I mean. Not really.
well, it's sort of the fantasy delusion, isn't it, that we talked about? It's just a way.
That actually scares me. If my parents die and I'm still here, it's quite, because it was so horrible.
But it's your refusal to feel about that properly, Deirdre, that is the
That's the problem.
you're still avoiding that. You're afraid of the natural consequence of it, if you like. Yeah. And actually, it is a loving law that governs rapport, because it's in harmony with your will and theirs that they would be attracted, because you're still seeking for them to change what's already happened rather than you feel about it.
Or blaming them.
And blaming them. Blaming them for your whole life now and all the problems that you have. And that's also a correction that God's trying to help you see, that not all of your choices are down to what happened in your childhood. you know.
Probably less than 20%.
I was just about to say 80% of them are your own. Yeah. Like you were saying, it's so important not to delude myself intellectually. Things are different than what they were. You know, like it's the real feelings. Like this wanting of approval is going to totally draw me to my family or my family to me. You know, and if you don't deal with these things,
I know that there's a lot of things about family. Approval's one, but there's like belonging, acceptance, having a history, nostalgia. Man, there's so many things drawing the person to family. Children are going to look after me, sense of purpose, like it's my only purpose in life, you know, to have my family.
Or if I don't have people in my life who were there at those stages in my life, did those things really even happen? You know, these people, this shared experience somehow validates my experience.
Yeah. And it's not really true they share your experience because most of the time those people are self-absorbed. But that's what we think, you know.
I had such a fantasy delusion of all the shared experience with my family, and then you get to a point of change and you realise, they'd experienced all of that completely differently to how I did.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't shared at all. They were thinking all kinds of different things.
Can I ask you a question? Because I have my little sister and I love her a lot. I really feel that. And she's schizophrenic, she doesn't want to see me anymore. But what's happening for her right now means like, I don't know about that. Shall I connect to her to know about her? Shall I ask you guys? Or?
I would first look at why. If she doesn't want a relationship with you, why? What do you need to feel in order
to give the love for her, and that's it?
Yeah, you know, like you can still love her, right? I still love my brother and my sister, my mother and my father.
But do you see what Jay's saying? He's saying if you feel that you need to see her to love her.
Oh, yeah. No, there's like it's a bit intrigued. Okay.
Yeah, if you need to see somebody in order to love them, then you don't really love them.
So it's an opportunity to deal with your definitions of love, isn't it?
Yeah, and particularly if they don't want to see you. Why would you not, if you love them, why would you not just...
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And also, why would you be upset about their decision? It's a free will decision. They're allowed to make it.
Am I upset and I don't feel it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know that, don't you?
Sorry?
You know that.
I'm not sure I'm getting enough knowledge on that.
How do you feel about your sister not wanting to see you?
Angry.
So you know you're upset.
I want to impose things on her.
Correct. So, and the fact you're angry means you want something from her. So is it love or is it... Yeah. So you say you really love your sister, but you're angry with her.
Yeah.
Is that love? You know, it's not really love, is
What
it?
was I first feeling for her? That was like something I was needing from her? Or?
Yeah. Things you need from her. Yeah. Well, you think growing up, you sort of feel like she was your only... the only person who understood what you were happening to you, and you understood what was happening to her. And your parents were like, you know.
Yeah. I could be only with her, quite a complete close to her. I mean, with her only in the family.
Yeah, but only because of the shared experience. Like,
okay.
Yeah, and each of you needed the other to share in the experience.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as love, right? And the fact you're angry about it is indicative that it's not love. Because if it was love, you wouldn't be angry about it. Make sense? Yeah, it's funny when people get, like, say, you know, I don't really know how I feel about it, or and well, you do. It's like just not admitting to yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it's funny, isn't it, when we're giving talks and stuff. People say to me, "Oh, a whole story," and I go, well, "You don't believe any of that. What are you talking about?"
Sometimes people's emotions just like come out of them, almost jump out of them.
While they're talking,
and
story.
they're saying a completely other different thing.
Yeah.